else up, and thank you guys for joining us. Normally we have these at noon, but we wanted to work with Miss Sarah to get her on board, and I think it worked out beautifully. But today we've got our guest speaker, Sarah Arnold. She is with the Johnson County, Tennessee Diabetes Coalition, and in fact, they are one of our first 5 coalitions that we partnered with through Marshall University and funding through the Centers for Disease Control and the Appalachian Regional Commission. And so they've been with us for a long, long time. Since 2001. So yeah, we've been around a long time. But Sarah is with the University of Tennessee Extension Service. She's been with them now since 2013, focusing on the family and consumer sciences and serving as the county director of the Johnson County office. Her current responsibilities include maintaining the office and personnel and securing and executing grants. Additionally, she enjoys educating the community on healthy living and fitness, nutrition, interpersonal relationships, finances, and working with the youth. And Sarah has also written many health-related articles for the extension. She's well-diversed in her community, and I'm going to hand it over to Sarah. She's going to be talking with us today about some of the work that they're doing in Johnson County, Tennessee. She's got a lot of experience and a great group of people down there that she works with, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, so we will get my screen shared. So hopefully you guys can see that. And I do appreciate you all, working the times around. But I am super excited to be with you all today and be sharing. Initially, we were going to be sharing about dining with diabetes. We had gotten a grant here in Johnson County, and we were going to pilot that. It's been several years since we've done that with our senior center. But then they had some other issues at the senior center and they were going to let the grant go, but they've extended that. So I told Sheila maybe next year. We're aiming to do that program a little later in the fall. We'll report out on that one. So instead, I decided to talk about some of the different programming that we've done and some of my partners have done across the county that are impacting diabetes, because I think sometimes when we're in health, it's easy to just start assuming that, you have to do specific diabetes targeted things. But it's the reminder that all of the things that impact our health, whether it's the way we exercise, what we're doing with our time, how we're eating, things like that, all of those can impact diabetes for different people and different groups. So down across the bottom, you see all the lovely logos. These are a lot of the partners that I've worked with. And I know you all are very familiar with Angie from the health department as well. And she's partnered on many, many things with me. So we'll roll through some of these. And then at the end, if you guys have any questions, we'll open up the floor for that too. So let's see if I can get my slides to move. All right. So arthritis class is a long time ongoing. It's probably been almost as long as our relationship with Marshall University. When I first started back in 13, this was going to be a 8-week class. And then, we'd take a break and come back in, a few months and do it again. And it has been an ongoing every week class since 2013, minus the COVID years, where we moved online for a little while. But last year we had 88 different participants. Many of these come every week. It's a twice a week class for about 30 minutes. We initially had started with our presentations, but found that this group that was coming, they appreciated and enjoyed shorter exercises where you worked just a little bit harder. So we've adapted through the years to change that up to meet the needs of those groups. Most of the time I'm teaching these classes, but we have a couple volunteers. In the picture is one of our volunteers in 2022, I believe, 2021 or 2022. She went through the UT's course for the Master Health Volunteer. So she got a lot of extensive background in health issues and ways to, get involved. And so one of the ways that she gets her volunteer hours with us is to come and help teach these classes, which is really helpful on my part. So I don't have to be there all the time, if I'm out of town for trainings or whatever. But we have an average of probably 5 or 6 people per class. Some classes you walk in because we don't have a sign up list, and it's just kind of show up as is. Yesterday, I walked into class and there was one, and then by the end of class, we had 7. So you never know exactly how many are gonna pop in. But so this one's been an ongoing class. We've had several people tell us that because of this class, they've recovered from a fall faster, or they caught themselves before they fell. Several people have lost weight, which impacts, diabetes numbers. And then this will kind of lead into one of my things that we'll talk about a little later. So I don't want to give that one away just yet. So this is one of our partnerships with this senior center. There's a couple others that we'll talk about as we go. The next one is our in-school programming. A lot of these are multi-partnered. So the health department will work with us, the schools will work with us, several other community organizations. So in the top picture, that comes from Kick Butts Day. This is a tobacco prevention day that our county has done for years, with the Action Coalition that targets, drugs and different types of substance abuse. And so I always run a table that has to do with physical exercise and health. So here the kids are doing the straw activity, where you have to do jumping jacks normally and breathe, and then you have to have a slightly smaller straw, and then you end up with like a coffee stir. And they get to discover how hard it is to breathe when you start impacting your lungs and health and different things. So then we talk about the foods that we eat and exercise that we do. 4-H has come and helped with this day a couple different times. And so we try every once in a while to change it up or send different partners or volunteers. But they have several different tables throughout. So it's kind of like a health fair for the kids, almost, where they get to see, different types of abuse. And then my table's probably the most out there, because I don't specifically target, smoking or drinking or drugs or anything like that. We just talk about overall health, and the way it plays into. We've done several different heart health activities. One year we focused on stress, because coordinated school health came and talked to me, and they were like, we need to talk about, heart health, but they're like, we're tired of talking about the foods that we eat, and, you need sleep and this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, what about stress? And they thought that was great. And so you'll see the calming jar, and then the learning your heart under stress, learning to calm your heart. This was a handout that we gave the kids, and every child in the school, in those grades that we did, it was, I think, 4th through 6th or 3rd through 6th grade that we did those classes. Every child got to make a calming jar, which they had the best time ever. But I will tell you, if you want to do this in your county, don't do it in the library with carpet and glitter. Doesn't end well. We have lots of glitter everywhere. I'm pretty sure there's still glitter in their carpet. But the kids had a great time. They got to take these back to their classrooms and then to their homes. They got instructions if they wanted to make more at their house. And then on the back side of it was that your heart under stress. And so we found, I'm trying to count them, 12 different things that you can do to help relieve stress. So we put in a few breathing exercises. We talked about, music, journaling, exercise. And so we went over some of these with the kids, and, we had a really open discussion on, what makes you get stressed and how do we deal with that. And then this last year, we put together a heart health Jeopardy game that we played with the kids. And I was actually surprised how many kids in 4th through 6th grade knew what Jeopardy was, because I wouldn't have thought that they would have known, but they had an absolute ball with this. So we had the different categories: heart facts, anxiety and strength, just heart health, nutrition, physical activity, and then mental health and your heart. And so they got to learn kind of how the heart works. Angie came from the health department and talked about the way that our bodies handle stress and how the heart works and how the blood flows in and out. And so it was a really neat opportunity to sit down with these kids and talk about how does your heart impact long term. So it's not just this is your heart, it pumps blood through your body. Like, it affects all sorts of things. And so the kids got to really engage with it. And they were talking about it, several days later when we would come back. And if you all would like access to either of these, I am more than happy to share those. by all means,
Yeah.
because those are fabulous. Sheila, your hand's raised.
Yes, yes. In fact, I wrote down here that could you share these resources? They sound
Yes,
lovely.
yes.
Yeah, and so helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will also say that the Jeopardy, if you all need to tweak it, if you have PowerPoint, it was super, I mean, it's super easy to tweak. It just takes some time. But it initially was created by our 4-H agent for their horse judging. And so I told her, I said, I need that, I need that PowerPoint. So it takes some time to make sure you have it all laid out right.
Mhm.
But she has it linked to where you can hit on those little gray squares. It'll take you to the question and the answers and then back to the home page. So super great resource. The kids really enjoyed it. So I think this one will be coming back a few a few times, and maybe tweaked for a few additional things going forward. So another thing that we've done for several years now, is kids gardening at the market. We kind of started this one out kind of trial and error, I guess. Um, we used to do food sampling at the market, and then we'd gotten a big grant several years ago to focus on, getting kids to eat more fruits and vegetables. And I talked with some of the people at our farmers market, and I was like, it's really, essential not only that they eat it, but that they, there's a lot of research that if they grow it or they help pick it, or they help make the food, they're going to be more likely to try it. And so I was like, let's use some of this money and try kids gardening. And it's probably, I think, in our 4th year now, of what this looks like. So every week the kids get handouts on how to grow. You see some of them pictured. Um, I've changed those handouts through the years. We've partnered with our ag agent and a couple interns that we've had to make like how-to sheets. So it goes over, how do you plant it? How do you care for it? How do you grow it? Um, and so they get, some fun sheets. One year we had, you'll see in that picture, it had 4 boxes: learn, grow, eat, and go. And so they had a section where they could learn about and record kind of what they did. One year we attempted, it was not a huge success because we have a very young audience for this one, but we had attempted doing like a gardening journal for them. Um, One year we had that to where, at the end of the market, when the gardening was done, that the kids could bring back some of their stuff. And we actually had kids bringing back produce that they had grown, and they were super proud of it. Um, and we had, the neat part for me was we had several families that would send back. I grew up doing this with my grandparents. I'm so excited I get to do this with my kids, or we're eating more fresh vegetables now than we ever did before. And then one of my favorite photos, which I didn't think to put it in here, I should have. One mom sent it to me, and the granddad and the grandson are out in the field, planting this together. And she goes, this gave them something to do together. And so, as you all know, health is not always just about the food we eat or, what we drink. But sometimes those relationships that make a big impact on things as far as stress and stuff like that. And then every week the kids get to take plants home. So sometimes they get to actually plant the seeds. And sometimes the market or the grants have provided us to get, we've gotten raspberry bushes, blackberry bushes, strawberry plants. A couple of our farmers will grow and start some of the tomatoes and pepper plants because they take a little longer. But so it's been a really, really well received program. This year, I want to say we've had 86 kids through. I was pulling this number the other day. I think it's 86 kids through the kids gardening. And when we started this at the farmers market, you would be lucky if you saw 3 and 4 kids over the whole summer. So we've really boosted um, the kids' presence at the market, and this has also impacted the SNAP spending. So our market is one of those that takes the SNAP dollars as well. And so this is a great way that we've kind of been able to boost that. This year also, our ag agent and health department have been working with a peer support group to do a community garden. And this is the first community garden we've had in Johnson County in years. Um, I don't know as much with this because I've stayed I've stayed out of their garden. But I know that they've started it, and that it's been well received. And so I know they go and do, gardening classes with that audience, which is also a, at risk audience. Um, so water roads is probably one of my favorites. I started teaching in 2016. We had 2 people. All summer it was the same 2 people. And I thought, let's see if this works, see if, anybody would come if I enjoy teaching, if it's any good. And it was a success. They had a great time. The city kind of picked up on it. And so I went and got trained that fall, and we really hit it. Um, all years prior, we missed a couple years because of COVID. But this year, our smallest class, I think, was 19 people. And our largest was 39, which is a lot of people in a pool at one time. But so over the course of 2016, those two people came 121 times. There's, I think, one of them didn't show up. And so far this year, we have had 543 people um, come through class. And so it's just a really neat opportunity. The lady that you see pictured all the way on the right with the blue pool noodle and the black and white bathing suit is probably one of my favorite stories. When she first came years ago, um, she told me, this is the only way I can exercise. She goes, I get too hot on land, and with my heart and other health issues and, hurt knees and this, that, and the other, she goes, I just can't exercise on land. And she goes, um, this is great for me. Well, that summer, she had lost some weight by the end of water aerobics. And she told me, she goes, Sarah, she goes, for the first time in forever, I can feel muscles in my leg. And it spurred her on to where she's now dropped probably close to 100 pounds now. And she's down several sizes. And even this summer, she pulled me aside after one of the classes, and she goes, I wish that I had taken measurements at the beginning of the summer to now. She goes, because I've lost a couple sizes already. And so not that, because she has done a lot of work outside of 2 months of water aerobics. But there's a very certain sense of accomplishment knowing that boosted and kickstarted her journey. Several of these people have made comments about how this is the best part of their summer. Or one lady, another lady told me probably 2.5 weeks ago that this was a life-saving program for her. And so, you hear all sorts of fun stories. One lady told me, she goes, I finally got to get rid of my ugly pink bathing suit and get something that was cuter and smaller and newer. But so there's a lot of people that come through this class after they've had knee or hip replacement, because in the water, you don't have that pressure on your body. And so you can do so much more. And I tell these ladies, I said, you all are, brave, because we give them a full workout. About a week ago, I had a volunteer teaching all week, and we had a couple new people come through. Well, I was back teaching class Monday, and the lady looks at me and she goes, I'm so glad I had your volunteer last week, because you're killing me today. And so, we hit it hard when we jump in the water. We run through cardio, we run through, strength training. We do some dancing in the water. And stuff like, I have these ladies doing froggy jumps in the water. They would never attempt froggy jumps on land. But so our bodies can do so much more in the water. And so it's really neat to be able to offer this. The town of Mountain City partners with us. The pool staff shows up and is great to work with. And then I show up and teach the classes. But it's been a great partnership, and we hope to keep this one for many, many years. It's also a lot of fun. So in addition to being good exercise, these group of ladies, like, we're together for about 2 months a year. And they'll all show up next year like they've never missed a beat. Several of these ladies then go, Bible studies, or they make friendships and they go eat together. So it's just a really neat way to kind of bring the community together and give them a support system. So this is probably one of my favorite ones. Not that you're supposed to have favorites, but I love this group of ladies. Yes, Sheila.
I love the fact that you're utilizing the city pool, because in a lot of rural communities, the city pools are just being closed down. They're not being utilized any longer. And a lot of places don't have the Y, so they don't have
Yep.
access to the pools and that type of thing. So that's really great to see.
And that's been an ongoing issue, I guess you could say, for this pool. And the ladies would love if they would keep it open longer. But so this pool is very old and is said to have lots of leaks. So it is costly for the city to keep it open. But it was really neat, because this year, because there's always talk of them, permanently, as you said, permanently shutting it down. And we got a new city recorder. And when I, reached out to the city to say, hey, are we good, to do this again this year? She goes, well, I mean, I guess. She goes, do you have that many people come? And I'm kind of like, do you all not keep numbers on any of this? And she goes, I have nothing. And so I was able to provide, thankfully, I had all of my records from 16
Yeah.
on. And so I was able to provide her. And like this year, because they collect, a fee for everyone to come. I think it's $3 this year. And this year we've made them almost $2,000. And so they're finally, I think, starting to see or understand, or she's trying to keep track of numbers. And so I'm hoping that will maybe, help boost, maybe repairing the pool.
Sure.
There is always talk of, getting a YMCA or an indoor pool, but, then it's location and money and time. And so I am very thankful, one, that we have a pool and that it's in good enough condition for us to get in. But they've kept it open for us. So I'm
That's
very
great.
thankful for that.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping
Yeah.
that providing numbers and, having a way to track it, because this lady, like, I never thought that they wouldn't track it. But I mean, they hadn't kept records of anything. They take the money, but then they just, deposit it. They don't actually count numbers or anything. And so I was also very excited to know that we now had somebody who's going to keep some data on hand. And so speaking of data, this is one that we have worked on for years. So as anybody that has partnered with Marshall knows, that there is a fabulous report that we do every quarter. And one of those things on there is blood pressure checks and monitoring. We have tried for years to get our senior center to track this, because they do blood pressure monitoring. They've done it for years. And Angie has explained it. I've explained, lots of people have explained it. Well, finally this year, when Kathy and I were talking, and Kathy's our director at the senior center, when we were talking about that diabetes grant, I told her, I said, well, it'd be really helpful. And I said, we could get some more grant money if we had proof that this was being done. And so I kind of floated the idea past her about, we'll keep names covered. You can, initial it, number it, whatever. And so we have been collecting blood pressures finally since May. They just turned in another sheet to me the other day, and they just put initials for the name, and they track it, and then they turn it into me. And so we're able to finally start tracking blood pressures in Johnson County, that they've been doing for years. And so I put this little note on here: never discount your current partners. Because when you're working in health or any, avenue, that most of us are in, sometimes it can be disheartening or discouraging, because you're doing, it sometimes feels like the same thing over and over again, hoping for, different results, or, trying to find something new that you can do, or a way to change it up or switch it or something, something to bring life back into what you're doing. Don't be afraid to run old ideas that were good past them again. Sometimes it just takes a little more time. It may be explaining it in a different way. And not just saying, here's one more thing for you to do, but going, hey, you can get money, or hey, you can get support, or hey, I can help you with. And so don't discount your current partners. Because I know Angie was kind of tired of asking him when I called her and I told her, she goes, are you serious? Because I mean, we've asked for years for them to do this. And so this was a big win for us, to be able to start tracking this. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how things change over time, but also having a way for them to be able to go back and, help the seniors if they need, tracks of, what has their blood pressure been. We can now provide that, because we can go and match up initials or whatever. But so don't discount your partners. If you have a good idea that, should have taken, run it past them again. Keep running it past them, because you never know when the golden moment will be, when that finally the light bulb comes on and they understand, oh, this is why we do this. And then kind of the last couple updates, what's coming up for us. We've got a vegetable day for the senior center planned. UT is doing a pilot program right now. And so Kathy and I hollered at her and I said, hey, it's a one-time lesson. I said, it's got some food sampling and some information on vegetables. I said, let's try and see what happens. So we'll see what happens with that program with UT. They're trying out a new take on it. And then in October, I think is the plan. We're going to try and shoot for, I think it's like a 4-week dining with diabetes. So my guess is we'll run October, November for that class. So I'm really looking forward to that because since I have been with UT, I have not done dining with diabetes. I know it's been done in the past in the county, but it's been obviously several years now. And so I'm really looking forward to giving this a whirl, seeing what kind of participants we get through the senior center, because it's also been a while since we've done an ongoing specific targeted class over there. And we've had a lot of new people coming to the county, and so things are changing. And so I'm really excited to have the grant to pay, to pay for the food to do this, but also to provide a hands-on kind of class where they get to sample some food, get some recipes, and have a very practical, this is things you can do with diabetes. I was talking to somebody the other week, and they were like, I think I probably have sugar, because around here, everyone calls it just sugar. They have sugar.
Yeah.
And they're like, I really need to go to the doctor because I think I might have sugar problems. I'm like, well, why don't you schedule an appointment? And they're like, because if I go and they tell me I do, I can't eat good food anymore. And I'm like, that is not how that works. I'm like, you can still eat good food. I said, you're just going to have to, monitor things better and eat things in moderation. I said, and it's not just, whatever you want, whenever you want. But so I'm really looking forward to, jumping into this class and maybe, combating some of that. If I have sugar, I can't eat anything good ever again. But so I'm looking forward to this class coming up in the fall. But with that, I will open it up to questions. I'll stop screen share. And if anybody has questions, if I can get back to my screen, more than happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
You guys are awful quiet.
This is right. I went to tilt my screen to look and pull up the chat, and I thought, well, I just got rid of
That's okay.
got rid of the screen.
Well, I have a question. What has been your secret sauce for success?
I don't know that there's like a one thing. If I had to put anything on it, it's going to come down to relationships. Because when I think about all the different programs, and the people we've gone through, you see faces of people. And you see those people that, like yesterday when I walked in arthritis class, at first I thought there's nobody, because there's, when you walk in the door, you can see where we sit and do class, and there's nobody. And I looked at the lady signing in, and I said, I don't know that I have anybody today. And she goes, no, Annette's here. And Annette shows up every class. As long as she's in town, she's always there. And I always offer, if it's just one person, I always let them know. I said, if you don't want to do class, I said, we can skip today. And she's always, she's ready to go. She goes, I'm here, you're here. She goes, let's get to it. And then Kathy is, as we're headed over, there's a couple ladies coming in that have never done class before, and Kathy's over there talking up the class, and you got to go. And so I think a lot of it comes down to relationships, because those ladies didn't know me. So I'm curious to see if they show back up, but they didn't know me, but because Kathy and Emma, one of the other employees over there, said to come do class, and Emma actually came with them to do the class. They came and sat through class, and participated and engaged and talked with the other ladies. And like when you think about the farmers market, it's the different partners through the years, and knowing which farmers you can contact, say, hey, can you grow, X, Y, and Z vegetables for us, or would you be willing to donate your time or some information? So I guess a lot of it comes down to relationships. Mm-hmm. And we had kind of talked about that, before we jumped on here, getting out and talking to the people. When I think about, the water aerobics group, I was getting a pedicure the other day, and the lady goes, I've never met this lady before in my life. And she goes, are you the one that teaches water aerobics? And I'm like, yeah. I said, now, which one of the ladies have told you about me? And like 2 or 3 of her, normal people, they were in there talking about water aerobics and what a great time they had. And so as you form those relationships, and I mean, I don't spend a lot of one-on-one time with most of those ladies, but they feel connected within that group. that they're talking it up to other people and talking about it as they go different places. And so, and there was one lady and she's like, I went on vacation. She was, but I want you to know there was a pool and I got in it and I did as many of them as I could remember. Um, and so it's things like that that you hear where it's not just in that moment that you're making a difference, but they're taking this with them when they're home or when they're out in the day to day and they're making changes that are going to impact their life for the better. That's encouraging. So I guess for me, it would be relationships. That's the secret sauce.
And I hear consistency too. And for you to only have, in your arthritis class, that one lady, but yet you're there. You don't know how many people's going to show up, but the consistency, the community knowing that that's there every week. I can't make it this week, but I know they're going to have it next week because they're always available to have class. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
and there have been times, and like in the winter months are rough because the weather gets yucky.
Yeah.
That sometimes you're just kind of like, I'm going to be done. I'm just done for the month. We'll come back. But then, about the time you hit the point where you're like, I'm done, I'm not showing up for, the one or two that might come, that you'll have like 7 show up to class and you're like, darn it, I have to keep going. But I mean, the ladies make it enjoyable once you're there. It's just the getting everything together going. But yeah, consistency really does help in that because they do know that you'll be there when they show up.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. Well, if you don't, I know I've got a couple more.
Go ahead, Julia, and I will get those resources too.
Yeah. So one of the questions I had, I noticed on the blood pressure log that you had a line there that to collect glucose. Is that something that you guys do on a regular basis, or do they just self-report that, or?
So they have a couple different volunteers that come and do this, and they actually do. They don't check glucose every time, but they do. And so that was one when I had told Kathy about all the grant stuff. She asked, well, can there be a place for us to track the glucose on there too? And so sometimes, because they'll turn them in because they do certain days is when they test. Like I have one, in front of me that's all filled out. And for some of the people, they have their glucose written on there, and for some they don't. So it's an optional thing that they'll test for.
Okay.
But I know some of the ones they turned in May didn't have the glucose on there. But so I think it's hit and miss based on what they do, or who's present. Because I think some of them will check it and some of them don't. Because they have, I think it's like 4 or 5 different volunteers that will come in and help check that for them.
Sure.
And I can share that sheet too if anybody would want it.
Yeah.
I'll send you all the sheets, Sheila, and you can upload it.
Yeah, and I'll pass them out. PowerPoint, I think you've already sent that to me. But yeah, all the resources, I think we would be very interested in whatever you want to share, with us. The only other question I have is, I know it takes a lot of funding to do programs, and sometimes you can have all the funding and not enough partnerships, or vice versa. You've got the partnerships, but you don't have the funding. So where do you guys utilize funding, and what seems to be the I guess the apple of the grant's eye? Where do you go to get your funding and get that consistent flow of money?
So it really depends on the program. So arthritis, when I first started, UT paid for my training, and that was through the arthritis foundation. I can't think of what they're called now. And they paid for my training, and I've always just offered the class for free over at the senior center, because I'm getting paid salary, and I get to kill it as part of my work. And so I'm like, I don't need to make the extra money there. And there's a lot of seniors over there because they have silver sneakers and Zumba Gold and chair yoga, but a lot of those they charge. And in Johnson County, we're a very rural county. There's a lot of people on very tight or limited income. And
Mhm.
so I provide that one free of all charges. Um, so there is really no cost to that. Every once in a while, I'll put in an order for the stretchy bands. And if Kathy has grant money, one year we had, and it may have come through Marshall, we had some money that was just kind of designated for health things. And so we actually got some pool equipment on that grant. We got some stretchy bands on that, and then we got some other stuff, trackers and things like that. For the gardening stuff, so UT has a couple different grants that help fund that. One of those is an ongoing, it's what we call TNSEP, but it stands, let's see if I can get this right, Tennessee Nutrition Consumer Education Program, I think is what TNSEP stands for, but it's somehow attached to like all of the SNAP and EBT type dollars. But so UT actually fills out a huge grant for the state, and then every county gets a portion. So every year Johnson County gets a set dollar amount to do nutrition programming in the community to help, people stretch those dollars or learn how to eat more nutritious or whatever. And usually I take most of those dollars and put them towards the gardening program. We'll use a few of them to do some cooking classes. And then in the school system, I do nutrition education 6 months of the year. And so I'll use a few funds to get, some samples foods for the kids to try. But so UT provides most of that. And then we've gotten, with the farmers market, we've gotten a couple grants through Appalachian. I think it's Regional Council and Development or something like that. It's ARC&D. So it works kind of in our area. We've gotten some through Appalachian Sustainable Development. We've used money through Marshall before for some different diabetes specific related programs. And then Kathy got the grant that we're going to use for Dining with Diabetes through our Center for Aging here in Tennessee. And she called me up when she got the grant. She goes, Sarah, she goes, I have $5,000. And she goes, I can't do this program because I'm not trained. And she goes, so I have the money, but I need you to teach it. And then, none of the dates were lining up. And then the people on the grant end, as you all know, grants sometimes are not fun because things change after you get the grant. And after they got the grant, then that organization kept adding on all these things to do. And that's when Kathy goes, I'm done. I'm just going to tell them take the money back. I don't want it. And so I told her, I said, are you sure? I said, we can get something together because, $5,000 in Johnson County can go a long ways. But she goes, no, I'm done. She goes, I'm tired of this. And there was a lot going on at our senior center at that time. And so, I thought, okay, well, we just won't do it. And then she sent the email to the lady saying we weren't going to have the money. And the lady emails back and goes, well, they've extended the grant through October. So you have more time if you want it. So I called her up and I said, hey, Kathy, I said, you still want to do that grant? So we're aiming to do that in October. We'll see how round 2 goes. And that's one thing I will say for anybody on here. If you can partner with Marshall, they do a great job with all their grants. Because what you apply for is what you get and what you can use it for, and it doesn't change. Or at least I haven't had any experiences where the negative experiences with the grants through you guys. But so I mean, it's kind of hit and miss across the board.
Okay.
And then when it comes to partners, thankfully here in Johnson, we have usually an abundance of people who are willing to jump in and help. And so all of those partners are usually keeping their ear towards the ground to see if there's anything. And so there's lots of emails between several of us where we're like, hey, there's this grant, could you use this? Or, it's an opportunity whether you get it or not.
Yes. All
You
right.
just reach out. But I don't know if that answered the question, Sheila, but
Yes, we're good. We're good. Any questions from anybody before we give you guys back 20 minutes? Oh, you guys are quiet.
well, again, I appreciate everybody,
Yes.
moving it to make 11 o'clock work for me. So thank you.
Yes, and thank you. And just when you get a hot minute and you can send those resources over to me, we'll have the recording ready anyway, probably sometime next week, so you don't have to be in a big rush. And then I'll just tie everything in at one time and send it all out to everybody along with the recording and
Good.
everything. So great
I'll try and
job.
get it
I
sent to
appreciate
you
that,
today.
Sarah.
My pleasure.
Really
Happy to
enjoyed your
share.
presentation. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining us. Have a
Yeah.
great day.